This is the Boxall Profile, which is an assessment tool used to track social and emotional development. This one is for secondary age children. It's used for young people that generally are not neurotypical, so they might have learning difficulties, autism, perhaps ADHD, and typically have developed slower than other children of their age, neurotypical children. So on the front you can see here there's space to put the young person's details, the date that you start the assessment, and then this is a little breakdown of the two sections which you assess. So developmental strands here and diagnostic profile. Then when you open it up, you can see these are the two graphs that you actually use to plot your answers on. So in section one, these are the developmental strands. The types of areas that you're scoring on, I'll read you several. Listens with interest when an adult explains something to the group, or makes an appropriate verbal request to another young person who is in her way or has something she needs. So for each one of these, you score 4, which means yes or usually, 3, which means often, 2, to some extent, 1, not really or virtually never, and then 0 is does not arise, not relevant, or cannot be assessed. So for each one of these, with that young person in mind, you would give them a score between 0 and 4. Then in this column, each score relates to a letter, which you can then see here on this graph. So you then add up all the A's. So if I scored 4 for this A and then 1 for this A, I'd have 5. You keep adding them up through there. And then in this section, in this column A here, you can write the number, the score that young person has achieved. So for gives purposeful attention, this is what a neurotypical child where they would sit usually, and then you can plot in where that student sits, and you do that throughout. So then that gives you an idea of where they are, and then in a year's time you would reassess, do that again, and hopefully if there are some areas that are particularly low, so if a child was scoring 2 on this one where the normal range is 16 to 20, you would particularly work on how you can help that child to give attention. Then you do the same for the diagnostic profile, which is areas more like what you would consider to be the challenging behaviour. So relates and responds to adults in an immature way, repetitively pursues a limited task which does not progress, etc. And you do exactly the same with this one, and then again you plot them on the graph and you use those areas again to help your planning, your social and emotional planning for that young person, and how you can help them to develop in those areas in which they are lacking.